while I was out in California, it was my first trip, my first score in California, I was asked by Bill Stinson and by Tom Miller, who later became the producer along with Eddie Milkis of a lot of shows I did, who at that time was vice president at Paramount with Doug Kramer, asked me if I'd do a pilot for this new show called Love American Style. And that also was kind of a first, because it was also an anthology. There was never had been, that I know of, a comedy anthology where it was different stories, vignettes that were, there was no cross link between the various stories. There were 3 or 4 separate stories, all within an hour. And then there was a cast of characters that would do these little blackouts. And exactly how the show was going to be put together wasn't quite sure, but Eddie Milkis was he was in charge of post-production at Paramount. And so then I worked with him for the first time, and he edited together, the main title and with the fireworks and all that. Anyway, so I did the pilot. And then went home back to New York, still living in New York, and got a call that the show sold. And could I come back and do the show? I was still living in New York, so for a year I was commuting back and forth doing the television show. And I did, I think about half the episodes. I did about 22 episodes we did then. I did about 11. And that was actually, in fact, the only show that I did all the episodes. For over a 5-year period, I scored. Well, I scored half the episodes, but then the other half were tracked with my music. So virtually all the music that you hear in Love American Style was mine.
What kind of tone musically were you trying to set for the series?
Well, at that time, I think most of the comedy series didn't use pop rhythm sections. They didn't have a kind of a contemporary sound to it. They had, I don't know, the next generation before, kind of a scoring style and kind of small orchestra symphonic. And I came in late 60s. I came from pop music, from Latin music. I did a lot of records in New York, and I wanted to interject that kind of sound. Also, I think I wrote 4 or 5 songs for the initial pilot, other than Love American Style song with Arnold Margolin, who's one of the 2 producers, he and Jim Parker. We wrote the Love American Style song together, but we also wrote about 3 or 4 other songs in the film. So it was kind of a unique opportunity. So because we wrote pop songs, I picked up on that pop style, and the producers really liked it. They said, go. They said, just, they liked what I was doing and gave me free rein to do that in the pilot. And then when we started the show, they again gave me free rein. So I'd always have a spotting session with the producer, of course. Television seldom with the director on series, usually doing something else while you're busy recording. But they came and gave me free rein to kind of underscore the show the way I saw it, injecting pop qualities and song qualities and contemporary rhythms, and but yet with classical motifs. There were these little blackouts I would very often score as though a different classical composer scored it. They were usually fast, maybe like in the style of Bach or Chopin or Brahms. A lot of piano music I did just to distinguish between the scores for each film, because within an hour there are 3 or 4 separate stories. Each of them had their complete themes. And I never reused themes from show to show, or even from episode to episode within a show, because there's a whole different set of characters, even though they all have the same kind of very genial, light, fun style about them. And then in between that, I use this kind of idea of classical scoring to underscore these blackouts, which are usually like 20 second, 30, 40, maybe 50 second, a minute the most.
Did you see the footage before you wrote your composition for the film?
I'm pretty sure I did.
And the lyrics, at what point did they come into play?
I'm pretty sure that Arnold Margolin gave me the lyric. It's the way I like to work. I work with a lot of different lyricists, and for the most part, if I look at a lyric, it speaks to me, it sings to me. I would have written songs of Paul Williams, for example. I may have started first, written the melody, or maybe I wrote a theme for a picture that the lyric came later. But in general, I like, because normally what I do is involved with film, or even if it's not a film, if it's just for an artist who's writing a record, there's the idea of who the artist is, and what should he or she be singing now, and what kind of a record are we making? So for me to work two words, I just focus right in on it, and the melodies come right out.
Who sang the vocals for that theme song?
Of American Style? You know, I think I did a demo with these fellows who became my kind of group singers for so many shows. But then they got the Cowsills to sing the song. Cowsills had a big hit just before called Hair. And I just remember having to go meet them one rainy night. I had to fly out of California, go up to Saratoga, New York to meet them. They were doing a concert. And to work with them a bit. And then they came back to sing, and they recorded right here in Los Angeles. And their version, I think, was only on the air for a year or two. It's on their Greatest Hits album, but I don't think it really was a hit. It was a popular show, so they included it on their Greatest Hits. And it was a single, but it didn't take off like Hair did, for example. And after a year or two, the studio asked me to replace them with my own singing group, which I did. And for a while, I called the group the Charles Fox Singers, thinking that it might be another avenue I may record with, but in fact I really didn't do much with it.